The smell of pine cleaner still clung to Marcus Webb's worn uniform as he slid into what he thought was his rideshare. He'd been scrubbing floors for 16 hours straight, covering a sick coworker's shift because the man had 3 kids and couldn't afford to lose the day's pay. Marcus didn't have much. A studio apartment with a leaking faucet and a phone held together with duct tape, but he had something worth more than money, a heart that couldn't turn away from someone in need. The leather seat felt impossibly soft beneath him. Too soft. Marcus blinked hard, fighting exhaustion, and that's when he noticed the mahogany trim, the pristine dashboard, the scent of expensive perfume replacing the antiseptic he'd grown nose blind to. This wasn't a Honda Civic. This was a Mercedes S-Class. Oh God, I'm so sorry. He reached for the door handle just as a woman in a stunning emerald dress slid into the seat beside him, followed by a man in a tailored suit who barely glanced Marcus's way before climbing in after her. "Drive," the woman commanded, her voice sharp with barely contained fury. The driver, separated by a privacy screen, pulled away from the curb before Marcus could protest. He opened his mouth, then closed it, catching the woman's reflection in the window. Her jaw was clenched, mascara smudged beneath eyes that glittered with unshed tears. The man beside her, tall, handsome in that practiced way, wore a smirk that made Marcus's stomach turn. "Victoria, you're being dramatic," the man drawled. "So I had lunch with Sophia. We were discussing the merger." "The merger?" Victoria's laugh was hollow. "Is that what we're calling it now, Derek? Because the photographer who caught you two seemed to think you were merging something else entirely." Marcus pressed himself against the door, trying to become invisible. This was private, intimate. He shouldn't be here. It was one kiss, Vic. One moment of weakness. "You've been so focused on that company your father left you." "That I built," she interrupted, ice in her voice. "That I saved from bankruptcy. That I grew into what it is today. With my advice," Derek shot back. "With my connections. You'd be nothing without." "Excuse me." Marcus's voice was quiet, but something in it made them both turn. I think I got into the wrong car." For the first time, Victoria really looked at him. Her eyes, red-rimmed but sharp, traveled from his name tag, Marcus Webb, maintenance, to his scuffed work boots. Understanding flickered across her face, followed by something else. Something calculating. "No," she said slowly, a plan forming behind those intelligent eyes. "No, you're exactly where you need to be." She turned to Derek, and her entire demeanor shifted. When she looped her arm through Marcus's, her smile was radiant, if slightly manic. "Derek, I don't think you've met Marcus. My fiancé." The car seemed to shrink. Derek's face went through a remarkable transformation: confusion, disbelief, then anger. "You're what?" Marcus should have protested, should have laughed it off, apologized again, demanded the driver stop. But something in Victoria's eyes stopped him, a desperation that reminded him of his sister when she'd fled her abusive ex, a silent plea that spoke directly to the part of Marcus that couldn't walk past suffering without stopping. So instead of denying it, Marcus heard himself say, "Nice to meet you, man." He even extended his hand, which Derek stared at like it was a snake. "This is absurd," Derek sputtered. "Victoria, what game are you playing?" "No game." Victoria's voice was steady now, strengthened by Marcus's unexpected support. "I was going to tell you tonight at the gala, but you've made things so much easier. Marcus and I have been seeing each other for months." "Months." Derek's face was turning an alarming shade of red. "You've been cheating on me with a janitor." The contempt in that word, janitor, made something flare in Marcus's chest. He'd heard that tone his whole life. From his father who'd abandoned them because being a truck driver wasn't enough. From teachers who'd suggested maybe college wasn't for people like him. From every person who'd looked at his uniform and decided they knew his worth. "Yeah," Marcus said, and this time his voice was stronger. "Is that a problem?" Victoria's hand found his, her fingers cold but her grip firm. "Marcus treats me like a human being, Derek. He listens when I talk about my work. He doesn't make me feel small for caring about things." She was improvising, Marcus realized, but the emotions bleeding through were real. How long had she been with this man who made her feel this way? Derek leaned forward, venom in his smile. "This is about the company, isn't it? You think I don't see it?" After your father died and left everything to his precious daughter, you've been terrified someone would take it from you. Well, newsflash, Victoria, without me, you'll fail. The board respects me. Your investors trust me. You're about to make the biggest mistake of your life. The biggest mistake of my life, Victoria said quietly, was trusting you with my heart and my business card. She pulled something from her purse, a phone, screen glowing with a text conversation. Did you think I wouldn't find your messages to Sophia? About how once we were married, you'd have enough influence to edge me out. About how my father's company would finally have proper male leadership. Derek's face went white. Then he lunged, not at Victoria, but at the phone. Marcus moved on instinct, putting himself between them, his janitor's arms, strengthened by years of lifting industrial floor buffers, catching Derek's wrist. I think that's enough, Marcus said quietly. For a moment, violence hung in the air. Then Derek jerked back, straightening his jacket. You're going to regret this, Victoria. Both of you. Driver, pull over, Victoria commanded. When the Mercedes glided to a stop, she met Derek's eyes one last time. My attorney will send the restraining order to your office. You're fired, effective immediately. And Derek, I've already contacted the board about your little scheme. Turns out, they value competence over connections. Get out. Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Then, with a curse, he shoved the door open and stalked into the night. The silence that followed was deafening. I am so sorry, Victoria said, her voice cracking. I had no right to drag you into that. Seeing him, knowing he'd been using me, planning to take everything I've worked for, she covered her face with her hands. God, you must think I'm insane. Marcus surprised himself by laughing. Ma'am, I've worked in maintenance for 12 years. I've seen insane. That wasn't insane. That was. He paused, searching for the right word. Brave. She lowered her hands, looking at him with those sharp, tear-bright eyes. I hijacked your evening, made you lie, and probably put a target on your back from a vindictive ex who has dangerous connections. That's brave. You stood up to someone who was trying to take away everything you'd built. Yeah, I'd call that brave. Marcus shifted, suddenly aware of how grimy his uniform must be against her pristine leather. Though maybe next time, pick someone who actually looks like they'd belong at, what did he call it? A gala. You look perfect. The words came out fierce, and Victoria seemed surprised by her own vehemence. You look like someone who does honest work with honest hands. Do you know how rare that is in my world? They stared at each other. Then Victoria did something that shocked them both. She started laughing. Really laughing, the kind that shook her shoulders and brought fresh tears, these ones born from relief rather than pain. I'm Victoria Lancaster, she said when she could breathe again. And I just made you my fake fiancé without even asking your name. Marcus Webb. And technically, you didn't ask if I was your real fiancé either. He grinned. I could have had a wife and 6 kids at home. Do you? Nah, just a goldfish named Bubbles. He's not the jealous type. Victoria laughed again, and Marcus realized it was a beautiful sound. Where can I take you, Marcus? And please, let me at least cover your dry cleaning. Or buy you a new uniform. Several new uniforms. Marcus looked down at himself. At the pine cleaner stains, the frayed collar, the name tag he wore with quiet pride despite everything. The uniform's fine, but if you're offering, he met her eyes. There's a diner on 5th Street that makes the best apple pie in the city. I could use some pie after tonight. Maybe you could too. She should have said no. She was Victoria Lancaster, CEO of Lancaster Industries, featured in Forbes's 30 Under 30, invited to speak at economic summits. He was Marcus Webb, night shift janitor, invisible to most people who passed him in hallways. But Victoria found herself nodding. I haven't had diner pie in years. Then you've been missing out on one of life's greatest pleasures, Ms. Lancaster. Victoria, she corrected. If we're engaged, you should probably use my first name. The diner was everything Marcus had promised. Vinyl booths, checkered floors, and pie that tasted like someone's grandmother had baked it with love. Victoria, still in her emerald gala dress, looked completely out of place and entirely at ease, fork in hand, humming with pleasure at the first bite. Okay, she admitted, this is really good pie. Told you. Marcus watched her, this powerful woman who'd just blown up her life, eating pie like it was the most important thing in the world. Can I ask you something? After you were my shield against my psychotic ex. You can ask me anything. Why did you stay with him? If he made you feel small. Victoria's fork stilled. For a long moment, she stared at her pie, and Marcus worried he'd overstepped. Then she spoke, her voice quiet. My father built Lancaster Industries from nothing. When he got sick, I was 24, fresh out of business school, and suddenly responsible for 300 employees and their families. I was terrified. Derek was older, confident, connected. He made me feel like I didn't have to carry it all alone. She looked up, meeting Marcus's eyes. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that support shouldn't make you feel smaller. It should make you feel stronger. Marcus nodded slowly. My mom raised 3 kids working 2 jobs after my dad left. She used to say that the right person doesn't complete you, they remind you that you were already whole. Your mom sounds wise. She was. Marcus smiled at the memory. She passed 2 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. Victoria's hand covered his on the table, the gesture natural despite them being strangers. My dad went the same way. It's like, one day they're there, and the next, you're supposed to just know how to be in a world without them. They sat like that, 2 lonely people connected by loss and pie and a ridiculous story they'd someday tell. Outside, the city hummed on, indifferent to the small moment of human connection happening in a corner booth. Thank you, Victoria said finally. For tonight. For not calling me crazy and running away. Thank you for the pie, Marcus countered. And for reminding me that sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is say enough. He hesitated, then added, if you ever need a fake fiancé again, I'm apparently available. Victoria laughed, but her eyes were serious. What if I wanted a real friend instead? Marcus considered this woman who wore power like armor but vulnerability like a wound, who'd trusted a stranger in her moment of crisis, who'd chosen honesty even when it cost her everything. Yeah, he said simply. I think I'd like that too. They exchanged numbers. Real ones, not the kind you give to let someone down easy. And when Marcus finally made it home at 2 in the morning, his phone was already glowing with a message. Thank you for being kind when I needed it most. The world needs more people like you, Victoria. Marcus, lying in his tiny apartment with bubbles swimming lazy circles in his bowl, typed back, the world needs more people brave enough to choose themselves. You're going to be okay. Asterisk. He didn't know then that Victoria would actually call. That their friendship would grow like wildflowers in sidewalk cracks, unexpected, resilient, beautiful. That 6 months later, when she asked him to that gala she'd never made it to, he'd say yes. That he'd discover he actually looked pretty good in a suit, and she looked even better in jeans, helping him paint his apartment. He didn't know that a year later, when he got down on one knee, for real this time, with a ring he'd saved for months to buy, she'd cry and laugh and say, took you long enough, fake fiancé. All Marcus knew, in that moment, was that kindness mattered. That standing up for someone, even a stranger, could change everything. That sometimes the wrong car at the wrong time was exactly where you needed to be. And that was enough.